Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We're going to Celtic Park in a midweek game in the league, and I cannot remember the statistic. It came out last year. Maybe some of you guys will remember it and drop it in the comment section of this video. But domestic action midweek at Celtic Park, we are undefeated in like eternity. It's always a good night at Celtic Park under the floodlights, and this week we are welcoming Dundee off the back of a pretty convincing result against Motherwell after a fantastic draw against Atalanta in the Champions League. But for the first time in like a good while, there's so many split decisions across the squad for who is going to make the starting 11 for Celtic versus Dundee, Celtic versus anyone in the league really. And in the video today, we're going to be going through this brain teaser of a squad to try and put together the enigma, the puzzle of what will be the starting 11 for Wednesday night. Me and McBride Ace will be live at the game. Well, we won't be live, but we'll be at the game, and we'll be live on Thursday night to do some of the regular Thursday night action, setting up for the weekend, which will be the semi-final against Aberdeen. If you're interested in catching the live show on Thursday, I'll link it at the end of this video, so you just need to click on it and hit the little notification bell, and your phone will tell you when we're live and loud on Thursday. But at any point in this video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We're pushing for 10,000 subscribers, and we're so close. If you do enjoy the content here, hit that subscribe button for more stuff like this, hit the like button of course, and get into the comment section and let me know what do you think the starting 11 is going to be against Dundee, as well as any score predictions are always welcome here on this channel. And yeah, hail, hail, let's get stuck into it. Because like I said in the intro, this team is a bit of an enigma. It's a bit of a Rubik's Cube of a puzzle, trying to work out who is actually going to be the starting 11 for the midweek, because there's so many options for all the positions in terms of not just quality, but also selection availability, fitness, minute management. All this stuff is really coming into it. And when I jump onto the tactics board here to try and, like preview a game or do the predicted 11s, that kind of stuff, I like to start off with who do I think is absolutely nailed to start this game. And really, this is as far as I got, to be quite honest with you. Like, I don't know about you guys, but for me, like, genuinely any other position, I wouldn't be surprised to see anyone play in it. And more so than ever before, we genuinely have three centre backs for two positions, and I've got no idea which one of them is going to play, because I think we do all expect that Carter Vickers is going to start this game, although maybe doesn't get a full 90 minutes. Maybe he's just kind of walking slowly from the shallow to the deep end on this one, as it were. Austin Trusty in the last game played one of his probably his best domestic performance for Celtic off the back of the Atalanta game alongside Liam Scales. It makes both of these guys almost impossible to drop, in my opinion. And one of the things that I thought was really interesting and perhaps quite telling on what the back four might be for the midweek is when Carl Vickers was coming on to get his minutes, it was beside Trusty at centre back. Scales get moved out to left back at the back end of that match. And that might actually be a huge statement towards the left back position, which we'll get to in a second. But for me, that really does feel like a foreshadow, if ever I've seen one, of what the partnership might be going forward for Brendan Rodgers. But I just cannot imagine for the life of me that Scales gets dispositioned or gets benched entirely. For me, I would still have him alongside Alistair Johnson and Kasper Schmeichel as like a nailed on player. But really, like, because he did move to left back for the back end of the Motherwell game, I wouldn't be totally surprised if it was Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers. I just don't know how you tell Trusty he's getting dropped. He's been doing better and better. He's been playing on the wrong side of the defence as well. And it's the first time we've been in this position since we had Jens, since we had Starfelt, and it's a great problem to have. And yeah, it's the first time I think Brendan Rodgers has had to wrestle with this sort of situation, so it's really hard to know where he will go. But Scales is only getting better every week, every match. It just feels like he is undroppable. But yeah, just with him being adjusted to allow for Vickers to play with Trusty, I don't know, that's given me the heebie-jeebies on maybe Trusty starts this one. But I do think, like, if you're going to be dropping somebody, it has to be Trusty for Scales. But because of that little foreshadowing, I'm going to go on a limb and say that it is going to be Trusty and Carter Vickers that starts this game, which, like I mentioned, it does put Scales playing in left back. Before we'd made all 5 subs, the 5th sub was Palma. We had Palma and Scales on the left wing for the end of that match. Seems like everyone's overlooking that in a weird way, which is quite funny, I suppose. But Greg Taylor was left sitting on the bench, and he's just came back from injury. If an Alex Valley is not completing the 90 minutes, you would have expected, similar to Carter Vickers coming on, which was for Valley, funnily enough, which is why Scales ended up at left back, it would have been for Taylor, and you would have got Taylor 20 or 30 minutes into his legs, and then maybe you've got a real decision to make ahead of the Dundee game. Now, I don't think Scales is in contention to play left back. I really don't, in general or for this match. But as I say, I can't shake that that's what the decision was in game against Motherwell, because it didn't really come off that great. You know, I actually kind of like the thought of this being a back three eventually. You know, in some way you would need Vickers in the middle for me. If something crazy did happen, that might be the crazy thing that would happen. Now, Taylor having not featured at the weekend, you know, sometimes when you get this kind of job share situation in some of these positions, and for this example, we're talking about left back, if someone doesn't play any minutes in one game, sometimes you see them get the 90 in the following match. So there is a bit of logic, there is a little bit of precedent, as it were, for Taylor to maybe come in and get significant minutes in this match, like from the cold, as it were. But I do think this will follow a similar path to what we see with Carter Vickers, and maybe the substitution we make in defence in the second half is the left back, and we bring on Taylor. We bring on Taylor for Valley, similarly to what we did with Carter Vickers against Motherwell. And I think this gives you like a nice opportunity to give Scales a bit of a rest. I think it, you know, he and Kyogo featured in every game last season, I'm sure the statistic was, but Scales missed like one match or something like that, and it was right at the end of the season. It was a random injury, you might remember it. It was like it was something quite innocuous. It wasn't like ever out because of it or whatever. He just missed the one game, and you know, that's great, and centre backs are kind of expected to do that for the most part. But like we're seeing with McGregor, and we'll come to midfield in a second, if you can get a convenient opportunity to maybe just rest someone and get them an opportunity to, you know, recover and hopefully grow and improve for the matches you then call for them later, and I think you take it. And I think, let's see, in Trusty and Vickers, I think this will be the back four, essentially. Like I really do think, like, I can't shake that Scales isn't going to get dropped in this one, but I can't deny what the manager did against Motherwell, and I'm not going to let the logic of the manager being in charge and not me get away from me here on this one. So I think this will be the defence in the back four. Now, the midfield is an entirely different animal. Again, we've got a lot of headaches, we've got a lot of head-scratching decisions to make here. And, you know, it's really, like, again, I think a lot of people do think McKeown is probably quite nailed on for this match, and I would be inclined to agree, because I do think the evolution of what we've seen in the match against Motherwell, of Hatate and McKeown both being the advanced playmaking midfielders for when we are dominant on the ball, when we are the favourites, when we should go and crush a team, was probably the best we've looked in the last month or two in terms of what the midfield were doing to support the attack and chance creation, goal scoring opportunities and all the rest of it. And I don't think Rodgers will want to walk away from that. I don't think he'll step away from letting these guys have another game and maybe fine-tune the partnership a little bit better. And because I think this is going to be the attack stage of the midfield, or, you know, I think Hatate keeps his position. Hatate played 90 minutes against Motherwell, and maybe against Dundee we see him get his normal 60 or 70, and we'll see somebody else come off the bench later. But if we go on the assumption that McGregor will continue to be rested for the Aberdeen game, and again, similar to what I just said about Scales, you take those convenient opportunities to give the guy a break. And I know he's not an international player anymore because he's retired from that and all the rest of it, fine. But, you know, he did pick up an injury, he did miss the last game. What's the point in rushing him back? Similar to Taylor and Vickers, we've got that luxury of a good squad. So if we go on the assumption that McGregor isn't going to make this game, Bernardo filled into this position against Motherwell relatively well. Like I mentioned in the post-match breakdown of this, I did feel that positioning-wise, like, he was always in the right spot. He actually looked pretty comfortable whenever he did drop into the defence, when the fullbacks were higher, to make a little bit of a back three in recovery. And generally, like, you know what you get from Bernardo, he's very strong and robust. He's always going to be getting in the face of the opposition, interfering with play and all that kind of good stuff. But when he doesn't have that pressure to get into the final third, like he stops around here, or he did against Motherwell in this kind of position, he just looks a lot more comfortable. He looks a lot more in his habitat. So I would imagine, again, automatically, that this would be the midfield that we see start against Dundee. But I cannot imagine Engels doesn't start 2 games in a row, and I would absolutely love to see Engels in this position over Bernardo to support a McKeown and Hatate midfield, because we are at home against a team that we will dominate the possession with, and similarly to when we play McGregor in this role, we're not actually looking for him to be a defensive number 6. We're looking for him to be a playmaker, a guy with a good range of passing, and a guy that can show up in the final third when we're really dominant and really press them into their own half. So honestly, like, if we were to, I think the safe play is Bernardo for Engels here, and it's Bernardo, Hatate and McKeown. Now, before I move away from this, there is a strong argument to say Engels does come back into the team. Bernardo retains the McGregor cover role here, and he gets more minutes in that position to get a bit more comfortable with it. And maybe that's something that develops through the squad. And then we see McKeown take Hatate's spot because McKeown can do that forward support role that Hatate does. And then we see Engels come back into the role that he's only been playing since he's been here. And it did feel that when he came off the bench for McKeown, that he was told to just go back into his role that he's been practicing. He's trying to hone the chemistry, the partnership that he's trying to work out with the other players around him in that area of the pitch. So there is a strong logical argument that I think this could also be the midfield, okay? But for what I think potentially, two things, right? What I think potentially looked really good against Motherwell in terms of Hatate and McKeown being in here. And the other side of that coin, it was Bernardo, so we'll use him for this example. But in the early stages of that match, it looked a bit more like this. And McKeown was like on a leash and he was like a coiled spring. He would take some space when he could. He would arrive a little bit later and go and support. But then off the ball, he would be quite close-ish to Bernardo, you know, without being in a total double pivot, two defensive midfielders. He was always just being a little bit away from him, being a little bit off him, not too far away. This kind of evolution in the midfield from Atalanta to Motherwell, McGregor could do that exact role, I think, even better than the role he currently does for us. And then if Engels was the partner and the guy that doesn't have that pressure to go all the way to the final third like he does now, I think this might be a midfield dynamic of the future, as it were, for us. I don't think Rodgers will drop McKeown after just scoring, playing against his former team and all the rest of it. I think he'll want to try and enhance this dynamic so that McGregor could maybe walk back into this position. Maybe not against Aberdeen in a cup semi-final, but probably not for Leipzig at home either. So yeah, maybe like Kilmarnock away, Hearts away, maybe something like this before Club Brugge at home. Because it is clear that, you know, Rodgers wants to play the same system at every opportunity possible, domestically and in Europe, and you know, it's been quite clear that he's happy to kind of adapt this style a little bit and tweak it to maximise the players he's got here. And yeah, it might be Bernardo for Engels, that would be very safe. Hard to see McKeown getting dropped, and I just don't think you can drop Hatate, but he'll probably get 60 or 70 minutes in this one. And I think Bernardo would be safe, but I think this midfield here makes the absolute most sense because Engels gives you more than what Bernardo does offensively. Defensively, like, they're probably 6 of one and half a dozen of another, to be quite honest with you. And because we're going to dominate the game, you don't really need their defensive prowess. Having someone like Engels in here with McKeown and Hatate orbiting off of him, pressing and covering in for each other, because McKeown and Hatate both recover, defend so well. You know, like, this feels like it could be a play for the future. So I would, again, think this could be a great opportunity to give McKeown more minutes. And maybe the last thing I'd say is maybe there's an argument that McKeown would do that and you keep Engels in the same position he's been kind of practicing in, or he's been bedding into the squad with, again, potentially. But I would be disappointed if that was the case, to be honest with you. I would much rather see this as an evolution, and I think this will be the midfield that we play. And then there's the front three, because I did not expect Daizen Maeda to start Motherwell and then Kuhn come off the bench. I expected that to be actually the opposite. So I don't know. So that made me think, Daizen does not rest. We kind of know that already. If Daizen's fit and available, he will play. He is unstoppable. He will not come off the bench ever. So I don't know if that is just the case and we're going to see Daizen play again. I've got Palma here. I don't think there's a chance of seeing Yang. I don't think there's any chance of seeing Palma from the start, but I wouldn't completely rule it out because I was quite surprised to see Forrest start on the right to give Kuhn a bit of respite, a wee bit of rest, because Forrest started the first 3 games of the season, 2 of them on the left with Kuhn on the right, which I would have thought would have made more sense. Daizen looked very burned out after Atalanta. He didn't look any better against Motherwell. I think he does need a breather. He does need a bit of a break here. But Forrest started on the right and Kuhn took the rest. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did actually see Forrest start on the left with Kuhn starting on the right here. I don't think there's any chance of Palma. But it does feel that Daizen is kind of undroppable in that sense. But before Aberdeen, before Leipzig, I think the manager would be wise to take this opportunity to give Daizen a bit of a breather, to give him a bit of a rest. I think Kuhn, after not starting against Motherwell, starts this game, probably doesn't complete the 90. There's probably a sub that happens. So I think all between the 4 wingers, Forrest, Kuhn, Daizen and Palma, I do think they're all going to share the 90 minutes here. And it's just about the combination of who and how and all the rest of it. Now I do think with Valley being like on the left, or even if it's Taylor, I don't know I was going to say, I don't know if Brendan would have both of this side like so inverted like this, but that's not a problem because we've always got Daizen up here or Taylor anyway, so it's kind of the same thing. But what I think this actually then paints itself into is maybe it's Adam Ida over Kyogo, because I just genuinely think that this has been you know, a front three that would maybe suit Ida a little bit more. Although it being a home match, and I would suspect normally Kyogo's better at home than Ida in terms of the style of play, the opportunities that we create with the big spaces that we have at Celtic Park. Because Kuhn's got a great variety of delivery, and Forrest isn't bad on his left foot. He will go on his left foot if he needs to, or if he thinks that's the best option. But more than likely, he is going to be coming in on his right. So I think that would maybe point towards Adam Ida. But again, I just think you would start Ida against Motherwell and bring Kyogo off the bench. And the fact that he started Kyogo against Motherwell, it means one of two things. Maybe Ida comes in for midweeks and Kyogo's weekends. Maybe that's a little bit of the fixture minute management thing that's going on, rather than it being a home away thing. But I genuinely got the feeling that when Kyogo started, and especially with how many minutes he did get in the match, 75, you know, generally, like, if Kyogo's got a goal, he might be off at 60, 65. So he got that extra 10 minutes to try and break the deadlock. And I think, like, you want Kyogo in form. You want him firing before Aberdeen in the semi, before playing Leipzig. And I think that would push Ida out the team for me. I think he would try and stick with Kyogo. Ida got his goal, Kyogo didn't. But then that would lend me back to wanting Dyson out here on the left-hand side. Yeah, so I don't think Adam Ida does start this one. So I think Dyson will start again. I think this will be the front three, and we're going to see the front three totally change. We'll probably see the whole front three get subbed off. We'll see Bernardo come into midfield, and then we'll probably see Taylor come in at defence. That might be the plan of attack for this match. It could very easily be Forrest and Ida in these combinations. The front three is maybe the most open, because it is just a matter of opinion and how the manager's actually managing the squad. Whereas with midfield and defence, there's people just out injured we're looking after, people just coming back from injury we're looking after, and then everyone's form position and all the rest of it's kind of all over the place. So those decisions are a little bit more like, what do you actually have available, and what's the manager's opinion on the best way to build the defence and midfield going forward. Whereas with the front three, we know the dynamic, we know what everyone offers, and yeah, there's maybe just a little bit of the unknown from us as fans of, you know, what is the plan, what is the minute management, why does he play Ida over Kyogo, or when will he rest Dyson, you know, why did he rest Kuhn, etc. You know, so I think the front three is maybe the hardest, because there's less things that will help you make decisions a bit easier, like, well, he's just back, he's not played 90, he played 90 at the weekend, that sort of thing. So I think this is the team that we're going to start with against Dundee, and I think with the sort of pace and the tempo that we could, like, the fullbacks I've barely even mentioned, they kind of do pick themselves, but like at home under the floodlights midweek, me and McBride will be in the house. That's all. Me and McBride are at a game, especially midweek, it's normally a good one. Don't want to jinx it, but hey, I can only say what it is. We've been to enough of them for that to be a thing now. So I could see us starting fast. I could see us getting a couple of goals in the first half. And then it's one of those games where maybe the second half, there's a goal and maybe a bit of action, but it's not quite as high octane as the first half, you know. So we won 3-0 against Motherwell at the weekend. I think we only get a better performance because of the competitive spirit and level all the way through the squad. We're at home, etc. as well. So I'm going to go with Celtic to win this 5-0. Let me know your predicted 11 and your score prediction in the comment section down below. On screen now is the Thursday night live stream with me and McBride. Yeah, over here. No, I'll put it over here. So click on that and hit the notification bell for when we go live on Thursday night. And then over here is some other stuff that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. Hail, hail, Moan the Hoops.